Hi, this is Richard Chamberlain, and I'm one of the attorneys with the Legacy Law Group in Perrysburg, Ohio. Welcome back to the Protecting Your Family's Future podcast. This week, we're continuing our discussion on why do people do trusts. This is part 3. If you haven't listened to the first 2 episodes in this series, I encourage you to go back and listen to those. We cover some important issues there. Today, we're talking about having a trust to protect minor and incapacitated beneficiaries. So, how does that work? If you have minor beneficiaries, and that might be your young children, it might be grandchildren, you can use a trust to protect how the inheritance is given to them. Now, sometimes people will specifically leave a gift to their grandchildren. They want to give $10,000 to each grandchild. They want to take a certain percentage of their assets and leave it to their grandchildren. So we have a specific distribution to grandchildren, intentionally made. Other times we have assets that go to grandchildren because they are contingent beneficiaries. So you might say, well, I'm going to leave my assets to my children and they're adults, but if one of your children doesn't survive you, then the assets would go to their children. So that's what we call a bloodline distribution or a per stirpes distribution. So you have assets going to what might be minor grandchildren, not as your intended primary beneficiaries, but as your contingent beneficiaries. So, that can happen in a couple of different reasons or couple of different circumstances. When you have a trust, you can say, if we have assets going to a minor beneficiary, and that can be, either somebody who's underage legally, or it can be just under an age that you feel is too young to be handling money on their own. So a lot of people choose the age of 25, for example. So if money is going to someone who is under age 25, then the assets are going to be held in trust for them. Someone else is going to manage the assets for them until they reach an age where they would be more likely to be able to manage things well on their own, make good decisions about spending, about investing, saving, all of the things that you want someone to be able to do. With the inheritance that they receive, a trust can put someone else in charge of those funds until they hit that point. And until they hit that point, the person who's in charge of the funds, the trustee of that trust, can still make distributions as the trust directs. So making payments for medical expenses, educational expenses, general living expenses, any type of things that you have said would be appropriate, the trustee can make those distributions. You might say, well, I want it for the grandchildren. I only want the money to be used for education. So you can do that. The trustee would be in charge and do that. Similarly, we've talked about minor or younger beneficiaries. If you have a beneficiary who's incapacitated, who just isn't capable of managing their own assets, then the trust can be used to make sure that the assets would be, again, held by the trustee for the benefit of the beneficiary, so that the money is used appropriately for that person. They might be receiving government benefits, they might not be, but you still want someone to manage the assets for them, distribute them in accordance with the instructions in the trust in the beneficiary's best interest. So if you have either minor or younger, inexperienced or incapacitated beneficiaries, a trust can be a very powerful tool in your estate planning. So I encourage you to look into that. Again, you might have primary intended beneficiaries who are either younger or incapacitated, or they might be your contingent beneficiaries. So either way, the trust comes in very powerfully in those circumstances. So I hope that's helpful for you today. Join us next week. We'll continue this discussion with the next reason why people do trusts. In the meantime, if you have questions about your own estate planning and you'd like some help, if you live in Ohio or Michigan, we can help you with that. Just reach out to us. The information is in the show notes. We'll see you again next week. Thanks.